rise with the sun. Step 2, get some good, some food in you. Step 3, think real hard about what you want to be. Step 4, everybody just do your thing.
Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. 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 Wake up, today's gonna be a good day.
Well, we are in our wheelhouse tonight, folks. We got Sasquatch, we got Woo Woo, we got Mr. Sunbow from the Scenic Sasquatch Project. Welcome back to the Caffeinated Cryptid podcast, everyone. Please subscribe, hit that subscribe button. We are on our way to 1 million followers, and we're only 960 of them away. So let's keep it up. Enough about the channel, though. You know, everyone who watching knows who I am. Let's talk about Mr. Sunbow with the Scenic Sasquatch, or the Sasquatch Close Encounters Network for Interspecies Communication. Promotes a peaceful approach to interspecies communications. Some of their main objectives include really neat things that I've always thought we should do anyway in this pursuit to actually meet Sasquatch and interact to maybe make it more palpable. Promoting nonviolent spiritual ways to contact non-human intelligence, especially Sasquatch. Helping people to develop connections with Sasquatch, providing information and counseling and support, and documenting communications with humans and non-humans. You can read all of their testimonies, view research. They got a giant website, tons of information, videos with Mr. Sunbow and other hopefully future podcast guests of mine on scenicsasquatch.com. How are you doing, Sunbow? Thanks for coming on. I hope you didn't have much trouble getting on with the link there.
No, thanks. It was nice, and I'm glad to be here. Thanks for the invitation, Bobby.
Oh, yeah. So behind the curtain, like I'll reach out with people like you obviously have some, my podcast is mostly Sasquatch, my favorite podcast subject. So I'm just reaching out to people like this guy has some Sasquatch in his name. So I'm like, hello. And you reach out and I do research after the fact. And I started doing research on your stuff earlier in the week. I got more excited. I'm like, and when you were having trouble getting on, I'm like, oh no, I really want to talk about this a lot. So when you came on, I was so happy. Tell me about the just how you got started doing this particular what is the word? How you started doing this particular method and approach to contacting and Sasquatch and collecting this information.
It's a long process. I started having encounters over 40 years ago. My first one in October 81, close encounter. And it took a long time to learn how to first understand what was going on, how to process the experience, how to assimilate the energy that can be very impressive, very frightening at times, and to learn to get familiar with it and how to approach it. And I got a lot of my teachings from shamanic circles and indigenous ancestral teachings, medicine elders who have had a long tradition and experience in dealing with paranormal phenomena. From there, it took years of encounters, scarcely at first, but more and more, and also as well with star beings and spaceships, without really understanding more than one bit at a time until after 33 years, which was in 2015, I got to really be ready to meet the Sasquatch, and they started coming to me and calling me to meet them. And that took a long year of preparation before I got over the fear. I was ready to go out in the wood and wait till we meet and communicate. Beyond just a sighting, like knowing from them, learning who they are, what they can teach us, how they relate to us, and they have a great wisdom. So that turned into channeled messages that I first published on my Facebook group, and there was a very good response and very encouraging feedback that people told me I should turn that into a book, and it eventually became a book, and then a series, a trilogy, and then the Sasquatch Message to Humanity, of which the third book is a collaboration of 10 international co-authors. And with this came a series of events, conferences, and about disclosure, about developing interspecies communication. And from there, it turned into an ongoing process through several medias. I afterward published an encyclopedia of all things Sasquatch. It's called Hairy Humanoids from the Wild, and it covers pretty much documented literature from all different sources. And from there, there's been ongoing, presentations, conferences, and interviews.
Just doing the standard tours everybody does.
Yeah, right.
Tours and Sasquatch conferences. I hope to get to go to a couple of those one of these days. I'm doing my first convention kind of thing in October, just to dip my toe in the water. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm not nearly as in depth in it as you are.
There's all kinds of them, of course, depending on what your interest and your approach. I would say there's many that I would not go, because probably the approach is too radically different from mine. Like hunters, or like try to capture Sasquatch, or scare stories, horror movies that are based on zero fact. It's pure fiction.
Yeah, I've never understood the well, I guess I kind of do, but like the whole, like, people scared if they see one, like they've seen. I mean, essentially, maybe like it's the same instinct of seeing a ghost, so it has that little panic in your chest. But in my mind, seeing a ghost scares me. The thought scares me a lot more than maybe I see a Sasquatch. Other than startling, I wouldn't be able to turn away. I don't know if I could. I definitely wouldn't run from it.
It's a very similar experience in a way, because Sasquatch have interdimensional abilities, and there's countless reports on first and second hand experiences about how they can materialize and dematerialize, or fade out and glide, and things like that. So it's pretty much the same experience. Fear is a natural reflex for survival when you don't know what you're dealing with. But once we learn what we're dealing with and how to deal with it, how to overcome the fear, that's when we start learning about it. And we can learn soon that there are powerful beings, some intelligence probably superior to us humans, that can have greater abilities on some levels. And it can be very impressive just to feel their energy, their psychic power. But if there's no threat and no, it's a peaceful approach and peaceful connection, we have a lot to learn from.
I'll tell you, about a year ago is when I started collecting stories. I basically thought, I'm going to collect ghost stories, I'm going to collect Sasquatch stories and UFO stories, and see if I could find similarities. And the ghosts are kind of garden variety. They're almost, I don't want to say the most boring one, because we know those exist. We can put them over here and go set a recorder in a haunted house at any time and have somebody yell, "Get out!" Kind of those are fun, and they always hit every time. But the UFO is very inconsistent. I think UFOs sometimes are the experiences people have with those are dipped or based in childhood trauma. There are some real ones, but some of the people have some real issues. But the Bigfoot ones, I started talking to guys, you know as well as I do who I'm talking about, like 50, 60, 70 years old, living in the country, and they have the gifting area. They go out and talk to them, and they can barely work a cell phone, much less fraud. And they tell me the same story. The same with the a little bit of the mind. They mess with their mind. They mind speak. They cloak, and that just it kills me that you get those kind of. They're anecdotal because there's no hard proof because they are what they are. Obviously, they're not going to let you know they're there. But I get really frustrated since then when somebody says they're just a monkey that hides in a cave and we haven't found them. That makes me so mad. I'm like, if you just listen, I know it's hard to think about. I mean, that's got to frustrate you as well, having actually a career in it.
Yeah, because experience teaches differently, and not only firsthand, but if you look into ages of, like I did in my encyclopedia, and also lots of legends that I heard from many medicine people of different indigenous cultures.
Yeah, don't even mention that the Native Americans have like a whole culture about it.
Oh yeah, definitely. Sorry. And they have, some of them have ongoing contacts, and as well in Australia, I noticed there with the indigenous people.
Navajo.
Yeah, and that's one thing you find in all those stories since thousands of years, and we talk about thousands and thousands of stories that tell that those beings are supernatural. They have some paranormal abilities, psychic powers. They can do what we would consider magic in some cases, or there's always an explanation when we understand the interdimensional fabrics of the universe, switching dimension, frequency, densities. But in simple language, it's what we find in all those stories: telepathic contact, things that appear or that are not glitches in the matrix. We can say things that are not explainable with the laws of physics as we know them. And that's the same thing happened with UFOs and ghosts. Also, that's why more and more researchers, I believe the ones who are on a good track, I would say, more and more will look into all these topics as related, because you hear the same phenomena reported. And there's also a lot of connections between, for instance, Sasquatch and star people. There's many cases where they're seen together.
And I know more than one ghost hunter that's really serious about it, who have Bigfoot encounters just from going out there with their intentions and their meditation. Like they'll be in a big graveyard and Bigfoot will just appear and walk by them. It's got to be a similar kind of phenomenon.
Yeah, and the telepathy is the universal language. Like if you meet spirits, something we learned in shamanism is how to deal with spirits, how to, for instance, cleanse haunted places or attachment from people or spells, things like that, entities that might linger around sometime. And what we first learn is you have to be without fear, without judgment. It's like a universal love and compassion to deal with any kind of energy. It's like a shield. And to wish the best for those, in many cases, they just go on their journey and they leave their bonds behind. So in this language, when we speak to spirits, we don't usually need or utter words. We can think words, but it's all happening in the spirit and the telepathy. And the same with higher consciousness beings, and even animals. Animals understand telepathy very naturally, and even more.
They're more in tune than us.
yeah, higher intelligence, like star beings or Sasquatch. They hear our thoughts. We can't fool them.
Yeah, I think I don't know how you will talk anyone into like experimenting with that particular area, because the ones that claim to be the hard-nosed science people they'll never buy into it, and but they're the same ones that say it doesn't exist because there's no proof. I'm like, well, there's, it's for the most part anecdotal, because like I said, it's what they are, but it's worth a shot. I'm sure the government's messed with it. I'm sure Hitler messed with it. I'm sure it's
They've
not like
had
Bigfoot. Yeah.
secret programs to study psychic powers and paranormal phenomena. They've had that since ever. Also, they have had expeditions trying to catch the Yeti or the Sasquatch, founded by all the major powers in the world. CIA, MI6, KGB, all these institutions were involved in researching and chasing after those beings. Just like they have you. There are many cases, many reports that they have. Usually what happens, actually since centuries, there's reports that they have killed or found some and captured that thing. And they usually disappear. We don't know what happens with them afterward. Even there's cases they're shipped to universities and they just disappear on the way or something. There's definitely a cover-up because the existence of those being non-human intelligence force us to rewrite all our history books, even our religions. Basically, all our paradigm, the old paradigm, is shattering when we understand these things.
I'd be okay with it, just a little bit.
Definitely. Yeah. Well, that's why we have those UAP, Pentagon, or Congress hearings, and they feed crumbs like, oh yeah, we now admit after 70 years after Roswell that there might be something.
Yeah, thanks for the crumbs.
Yeah, right. It's a little too late. We've known more than that already.
And they basically just told us what we've been knowing for 50 years. Like, yeah, we know you got them. Show us a picture. Right. Walk one out.
Yeah.
Show us the footage from the Eisenhower meeting.
So the cover-up is obvious, and it comes from the fact that they want to keep us under control. Basically, if we find out about our multidimensional potential, about our star relatives, about non-human intelligence and things like that, we're much harder to control, to keep in the rows, like follow the rules and the narrative and don't question it.
Yeah, if we ever found out what we actually were, they would go nuts. I think a lot of the things that they're hiding is because of big energy as well.
Yeah,
because even the moon is isn't like the thing where the moon is one crater has that I can't think of O3 X3 H3. Yeah. Anyway, it's a molecule, and one crater can fuel a city for 10,000 years. And that's
helium-3, I guess.
Helium-3.
Yeah.
I think it was H.
Yeah. It's nuclear fuel, pure. Also,
I think Big Oil killed the moon project because of that.
Yeah, well, they're still working on it, but in secret again. All the secret space programs and all those things. And why the secrecy is because they want to keep control. Even why they don't tell us about Sasquatch or star beings, it's because they can't control those things, those realities. They know about it, but they cannot admit to us that it's out of our control.
Now, you would think the star beings or anything like that would try to push through to us, but maybe they know we're too far gone. I don't know. I've never understood that. Like, if Bigfoot wanted to save us, not Bigfoot, but like the aliens wanted to save us, why don't they just push through and like they have powerful?
There's many reports of them intervening in nuclear facilities, for instance, or launches. So they've been there, and the Fermi paradox is almost a joke in itself, because it says, why, if there's so many planets, is the universe silent? But it's never been silent. It's just that we don't listen. There's
not allowed to listen.
Yeah, what about those tens of thousands of UFO sightings reported every year? What about all those first, third, and fourth and fifth encounter of the fifth kind happening to thousands and tens of thousands of people around the world? So the universe is not silent. We just have to pay attention.
I'm starting to believe more in the CE5 things more nowadays. It seems like guys who can, like, I've talked to more than one person, like, we just started messing around with it, like in the backyard, and they started appearing, and it became a thing that they did for fun, and now they can't stop it.
Yeah, it's open to all. It's not, we don't need to be a government or a military agent to be able to deal with those beings. Probably we have a better chance if we come as human beings, sovereign human beings on our own, with a good intention. And I've had myself experiences, including a CE5, that you just basically invite them and they come with other witnesses. So that shows they hear us, and we can listen.
Yeah, so the energy is definitely in tune, waiting for us to be in tune with it.
Exactly. There's that telepathy, that consciousness, basically, which is the first condition to existence. It's where it's the real matrix we're all coming out of. We can say the source, the spirit, in other words.
Let's talk about your encounters with the actual Bigfoot. I mean, what occurred with the first, like, when you actually, not just a sighting, but when you finally got to go and communicate with it face to face without it just being a footstep? Like, did you see it like you were standing in front of somebody? Smell it, touch it?
Touch and physical, I cannot say it happened, but they have touched me sometimes when they are invisible. Let me feel they're there. But that happened around in summer 2014. I learned that my great-great-grandfather was half Sasquatch. He was found in the wilderness with his twin brother when they were around 8, near the Great Slave Lake in the Northwest Territories, found by creek trappers and raised by them. And I learned that from my native cousin, who's the family historian. I had seen those reports in the old Gazette before. So that was like intriguing me and trying. I wanted to find more. Since that time was like a big trigger, that was more than just a curiosity as many other topics. It was like something personal for me. And that's when I started doing intensive research, finding, maybe 5% of the information online is somewhat valid. But they started coming around my camp, walking around, walking on the roof, looking at me through the window. And that was a preparation, because it was hard at first to really just open to these encounters. Just say, okay, they're watching me, I'm watching them. We want to communicate. And until spring 2015, when I was finally ready and went for that specific purpose on a vision quest in Vancouver Island. And first day I found footprints and heard mumbles in the wood. But after a week, I did ceremonies, and then Sasquatch came and sat behind my tent. And that was the beginning of this intensive communication, conversations where there are more like info downloads. They give me a whole lot of information. at once for me to process and decrypt. And then it told me if you write it down so you can share it. And at first I was very hesitant because I didn't think anybody would want to hear that. And I was guided to the right place, the right people. Like a week later, I was at the Indigenous International Leadership Gathering, where in British Columbia, and there were those cultures there, the Salish people. They know about Sasquatch. They all have stories. They all it's part of their
Is that
life.
part of the First Nation? The First Nation up there?
Yeah.
What tribe was that?
That was a Stlatlium, which is one of the Salish tribe. But I was around several Salish tribes that have very strong connection with Sasquatch. They include them in their ceremonies. It's something that's common knowledge for them.
So when you first tried to, get in good with them in your camp, were you living in the woods, just in like a cabin, pretty much?
That time I was just camping under in a small tent.
Oh, in a tent. Okay.
Yeah.
You said window, so I'm thinking cabin.
Oh, the first time, yeah, I was living in a school bus for a season or two there.
That sounds fun.
Yeah. Working in the orchard. So, yeah.
See, I kind of had like a hypothesis. It's not really too far fetched, and it's probably stupid that I think it's something I came up with. But I feel like back in the olden times, you were basically always outside, even when you're inside. Your hut, like the First Nation or the Native Americans, they had the pueblos or the teepees or whatever the structures they're in. They're basically outside. They didn't have headphones. They didn't have TV. They didn't have a washing machine going. It was just quiet. And it had to put your vibration at a certain level. It's kind of like when somebody turns off a vacuum cleaner, and you're just like, it feels louder than when the vacuum cleaner was on. I can't imagine how loud that silence is. I mean, I was an outdoorsman as a younger man. I'm probably a city feller now, but I hunted all the time back then, so I know this. I know the silence, but I can't imagine that being your existence. And I'm sure the First Nation and Native Americans now, especially the Navajo out on the reservations, and I bet they still have that same kind of silence. Maybe not as much, but that's got to be why they're still in tune with it.
Yeah, they say the word is of silver and the silence is of gold, and that's really true because you hear the truth in the silence. When you find yourself in the wilderness and all there is maybe a little breeze in the trees or bird chirping, but pure silence sometimes, and that's when you start hearing.
You can hear like a cow from 10 miles away.
Yeah.
Or a train. Like there's no train track for 20 miles.
Once I spent 10 days on the mountain in a vision quest, listening to this silence and asking for a message. I was asking, talk to me. And after 10 days, I heard one word that listen. And I started listening, and I started hearing that every little movement, every little sound is a manifestation of consciousness right there. It's life talking to us.
It's crazy. Do you ever make any efforts to decalcify or keep your pineal gland pure?
Well, it's good to do. Try to.
I mean, I guess if you're living out there, you're doing it by proxy. I mean, de facto.
Yeah, meditation and the detox and stuff like that. Medicine plants that can help.
Yeah, if you're living on berries and creek water, you're not taking any fluoride anyway.
Yeah,
I think that's a huge part of it. What do they call it? The fluoride stare. Just somebody said that today. I saw a meme to where they were talking about buying milk from the Amish people. And somebody was like, don't buy unpasteurized milk. and somebody said, "Look here, Mr. Fluoride Stare, don't tell me what I can and can't eat." Yeah, just I don't know. Seems like there's a lot being hidden from us.
Yeah, definitely, and there's definitely some dark schemes happening. You know what we're calling it, conspiracies, if you want.
Like the Tartarian mud flood and the that hidden technology from the 1800s.
Yeah, and there's programs and operations that are covered to control humanity, basically, or that's.
Anytime anybody makes a car that runs off water, they get killed.
Yeah.
What is that about? That's a 100% guarantee. I wouldn't even work on that kind of stuff. And the more I dig into like the fun part of what I consider the paranormal is seeing the big gray aliens and talking about seeing Sasquatch. Like that's pretty much just like, I feel like this underlying message is being told to me that that's the part that you're missing. Like, of course, that's probably real. Like, focus on the mission focus on the message behind it to why you don't know why they're keeping it from you.
Yeah,
I get that feeling a lot.
Right.
Like almost determined that Bigfoot was real the first day I did it. So I'm like, okay, well that was quick. And I've never had an encounter, but I've met enough people that I'm like, yes, they're not making it up.
It's a feeling, and if we look at it, it's in all the ancient cultures of the world, ancient written legends even, and it's part of our collective subconscious. Those wild hairies. Yeah. The wild men.
People say the same thing.
Yeah. And they're not mean if we don't go after them with guns or stuff. They're actually protectors of the forest, so they might prevent certain destruction from happening, but they're not gonna come after people for no reason. They actually will help lost travelers, protect lost children, and there are all those stories we hear.
And I assume they probably use some of their mind altering things to help people. Like, I don't see you, but you're lost on this trail, so come over here. And you lost 20 minutes, but you're back on the trail. Kind of like a little alien abduction. Yeah,
they do all kind of magic, we could say, that help people in so many ways. They brought healings, they brought guidance, a lot of teachings for me, and that I've been asked to transmit, and that I've reached far worldwide now. And the book 1 is in 7 languages.
Really?
So that means there's a lot of people who are open to their energy, to listen to what they have to tell us.
You know, when I was little and when I was younger in the 90s and stuff, if you said Bigfoot, it was just a joke. It was like, how Harry, that's a man in a costume. Now you say something about Bigfoot, like, really? Do you believe in that? I'm like, yeah, I mean, for the most part. I mean, if it all turned out to be a complete hogwash, I'd be like, well, I told you it was. But I, like, in my heart of hearts, I'm thinking, yeah, it's. And then they're like, okay. And you'll tell them a story, like, really? And like another story, the same thing across the country. Really? Yeah, it's. Yeah. And they're like, why haven't they found any bodies? Why haven't they found any bodies? I'm like, I'm almost like, I don't ask that question anymore because I know why they haven't found bodies. Like, it's not.
Well, there's a cover up, as I said earlier. There's many reports of bodies that were found and disappeared. Plus, also the Sasquatch are intelligent enough that they won't let their dead lay out.
Yeah, I mean, like if they die around them, I'm assuming that there's some kind of procedure that they scoop them up and take them wherever they live permanently. But at the I'm assuming that, they're not infallible. Maybe they're not magic, but they're just like a really super honed up being, whatever they are. And they make a mistake and maybe get shot sometimes, and the government immediately swoops in.
Yeah, they're not invulnerable or immortal. They can be killed, but it's very hard to you can't outsmart them. You have to surprise them, bring a huge crowd with equipment and stuff like that.
I had a friend that I just met. His name is Mike from Southern Mississippi. He got cornered in a tree stand by a juvenile or a younger one, and it was screaming at him. I'm just the scream everybody talks about that like rocks your soul. Said it makes his chest tight. And he had a gun and he aimed it at him, and the thing kept making a face every time he aimed it at him. Because he's like, am I going to be up here all night? Is it going to climb a tree and kill me? Like it was basically like he's making a decision. Like I got to get out of here. And at one time he said he's about to squeeze that trigger and something told him not to do it. And he put the gun down and the thing ran off. I'm like, do you ever think about how close you came to solving the mystery? He goes, no. I thought that once and I realized I'd probably get ripped to shreds or I would get out of there and come back and it'd be gone. Like, yeah, that's probably truth.
Very likely,
yeah. They're not gonna leave it laying.
Yeah, and they protect their own. Yeah, and there are skirmishes, we can say, often with juveniles or that are messing with or playing with people. There are also times where they will protect their territory. If you come there with armed and they have children, or if it's a sacred area for them, they might throw a log or something to repel. Most reports, people don't get hit usually. It's just to frighten them away. Yeah. But they have the right to defend themselves, and in the overwhelming majority of cases, they're peaceful.
Oh yeah, I mean, if they wanted to, if they weren't, we would know it. I think.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe there's a bad egg or a bad apple in every bunch, and maybe the bad cryptid, a dog man, a gugway, whatever you call them. Who knows what's coming across? That's why people say they see all kinds of different crap out there, because who knows what's popping in and out, stealing a soul and leaving. But yeah, if Bigfoot was bad, we would know it. All right, I think I would. What was I going to say? I think the David Paulides things has a lot to do with maybe it's Bigfoot, maybe it's alien. Something's out there doing something, but it's few and far between.
Yeah. Well, if you look at many of those cases he reported, there's very, very little to connect them with the Sasquatch at all. It's in a handful of cases. It could be anything else, like MILAB abduction or
MILAB is a big thing.
Yeah,
I think that's a lot of the bad stuff.
Yeah,
the cattle mutilations.
Exactly. Yeah, and it could be secret societies, that do a lot of abduction as well.
Don't forget the scariest animal in the world, the human.
Right.
And all kinds of crazy stuff.
Forget they exist.
Yeah. Well, that UFO connection he came out with, the David Paulides one. They were saying that people were just getting thrown out of the UFO wearing their clothes backwards and stuff. And so that accounts for 20-30% of them, because they find people just like on a rock. Like, how'd you get up there?
Yeah. Well, there's definitely the UFO abduction phenomenon is definitely undeniable, well documented since decades. And we talk about millions of people that claim to have had similar experiences. We have to make it clear that not all UFO encounters are abductions. In my case, I had several encounters, but nothing I can call an abduction. It's against people's will. And according to the Free Foundation for Research in Extraterrestrial Encounters, a global survey they conducted, I took part in. It's about 10 to 15% of encounters that are considered as negative by witness contactees. That means, the great majority of are either neutral or positive.
Were yours before or after you started trying to get in touch with the Sasquatch mentally? Your UFO experiences with?
Yeah, well, I had several encounters over the years with Sasquatch and with star beings.
I mean, when you had your UFOs experiences, was that before you started doing the Sasquatch thing or after?
It all started pretty much around, over 40 years ago for me now.
Okay, I was just saying, like, if you maybe opened up a door and made it all come in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like I was opening to the possibility that we have non-human intelligent relatives.
Yeah.
And they started to manifest. So I had in '83 my first landed UFO a being, close encounter, the third kind, humanoid was there, and we tried to communicate, but I was not skilled or understanding yet what was happening.
You didn't have like an near-death experience beforehand, did you, or anything like that?
I can say I had out-of-body experiences. Near death, not that I necessarily can call clinical death.
Yeah,
but
I've just talked to so many people. Yeah, I mean, I've just talked to so many people that had like a terrible sickness, or they died on the table and came back. All of a sudden, they see Sasquatch, they see ghosts in their house. Everything's the spirits are speaking to them. It's just crazy how that works. Like, that veil is so small, and once it's shattered, it can't come back.
Yeah, once the door is open, the window of perception.
There's something to that. I don't know what it is, but so many people like it just started after that. And I'll ask them just I'm like, well, have you died? Now, yeah, how'd you know? I'm like, well, you're telling a story right now. And you're seeing monkeys in the yard, man. You're telling me this story.
And there are practices, I've looked into all kind of spiritual practices. What I found myself is that shamanic ancestral teachings that are the oldest form of spirituality is basically centered on trying to understand the universe with all its dimensions, including the spirit world, or the astral, etheric, and other planes. So from those practices, there are ceremonies, ways, meditations to connect, to seek visions and call on the spirit world. And that has been brought to me early in my life, around 17-year-old. I started on that path, so that has favored certainly the contacts and the experiences to happen.
Now, when you go trying to make contact with the Sasquatch, is there like particular terrain you look for?
If I'm looking for a close contact with them, we have to go where they would love to live. We have to make the first steps. Like, they can contact us, in telepathy in our own living room, but it's not the same intensity as if you go where you can hear them, you can even see them sometimes, or they can leave tree structures and things for use. So
you look for clues first, then.
Yeah, so you go in the wilderness where basically, as far as you can from civilization. And
I've talked to others that say they look for something with like maybe like a rim of a mountain above it and the creek below it. Always a river or water.
The ideal, setting for
obviously
living, basically. But from my own experience and all the reports we hear, they can show up just about anywhere. This shows that if you want to have a intimate contact without interference, without traffic, without onlookers, you go where you're going to be alone with them. And that requires the first lessons we learn is to drop the fear from nature, to relearn to feel at home, at peace in nature, to feel no fear from all the animals that can be there, just like we're part of blending it in it. And that's when they see this attitude, they see we were ready to come and meet them. Because if we're afraid of a bear or whatever, a wolf, we are not ready to meet a Sasquatch.
I can't imagine what they think about the people from like Expedition Bigfoot or Finding Bigfoot. I can't I can't. Maybe they're not cynical but they're basically human. I mean, that I've put together that they're just a type of person. I mean,
if you look at their 70 episodes, they haven't seen a glimpse of a Sasquatch yet.
Yeah, and they do the gene. Yeah,
it's
they
because
do
they
the
have
DNA in it. Yeah, I mean,
you go after them with guns, try to trick them, to trap them, to lure them. But they don't have no interest in meeting.
And the DNA always comes back human and unknown.
Yeah, exactly. And many studies, it's 99% human and something else.
Like, oh, it's contaminated. It's a human. Man, how many times are you going to say that before you realize what you've actually found?
Well, that's what most results come up with. Yeah.
They all say human or unknown. I'm like, well, maybe they're human. I mean, everybody says when they see one how human it looks, and that's what freaks them out. Like, there's got to be something to it.
They look very well. They're our closest relatives. They look very close to us in a way, you know, the facial traits, and more than any other creature on this planet, that's for sure.
And they don't have the opposable thumb on the foot. They got like a human foot that's flat.
There's different types, but like the Yeti, the Himalayas, or some of the ones in Australia, I saw tracks that have the opposed thumb. But it's just like lineages. There's bigger ones, smaller ones. Over millions of years, they have different particularities, but they're pretty close looking to us, pretty close to be human.
Do they have? I heard they had the nose like a dog, almost kind of flatter, but the rest was very similar.
Again, it depends a lot on different lineages, different places around the world, and it's just like us people have each different faces. You know, if you take people from different parts of the world, they have different traits.
Yeah, I've heard there was like the gorilla face sometimes. And sometimes you look and it's just a hairy dude.
Yeah. There's I can say that I've confirmed that with my own experience. Yeah, there's also, a lot of times they will start communicating on a psychic level, telepathy, dreams. You have visions of them and things like that, because it's much easier for us to get used to their energy than to have one walk straight to you. That's always very.
I have heard more than one dream account.
Yeah,
and it was freaky because in one dream he said that it came to him just like a Sasquatch and talked to him. It was a woman Sasquatch. Called it. I don't know why she called it the owl woman. I missed that part. He called it the owl woman, but it was a Sasquatch, and it talked to him in the dream. Didn't really talk. It was telepathy, yada, yada, yada. The next time it came to him in the dream as a human person, and I was like, hold up. What did the Sasquatch think a human person looked like to you? It's like, yeah, it was just a woman, but, had long hair, and it just seemed crazy that they could make that kind of thing happen telepathically, especially in a dream.
Yeah.
All I could think about was Mars Attacks, the fake Martian that came walking into the White House with a Sasquatch face. That's all I could think about when he said that. I'm like, hold up. I stopped like the whole conversation. I'm like, you telling me you saw like a woman Sasquatch? Like, what did it look like? Because I always want to hear all the details. It's about things like that. Let's see, I'm looking it up here. I can't remember who that was. But yeah, but as far as like cryptids goes, have you ever had any encounters with like the lizard people or any other kind of cryptid or the reptilians?
Yeah, I've had encounters with several beings, and especially since I've started working closely with Sasquatch. They have introduced me to other star beings. They have explained through my books, actually, about those star beings, where they come from, who they are. And there are actually some of them, because there are infinite branches that we cannot all learn or list. There are some reptilians that it's never all black or white. There's no group is totally entirely good or entirely bad, just like us humans.
Just like anything else.
Yeah, we're a mixture of good and bad. And some groups are working more for good and others more for bad or malevolent. But some of the little people stay in the conscious path, and they're helpers. The ones star beings I work with called the Council of Star Elders, where they gather elders from all around the universe, all different species that work together to maintain the balance in the universe, watch over the worlds. And among them, there's reptilian and insectoids. There's amphibian beings. There's avians.
The term praying mantis gets brought up a lot.
Yeah. The frogman, you said?
Now, praying mantis, whenever, like the big bug?
Yeah.
Yeah,
praying mantis. Yeah, I was introduced to one of those.
Really?
They're very impressive. I would say it's probably one of the most impressive I got to meet. They're really they're really like super powerful psychically. They can't control people.
Would you say they couldn't do what?
You can remote control people, basically, and they have their like minions that become like pretty remote control bodyguards, basically. I had to negotiate with that being to respect my sovereignty, my own thought space.
Yeah, don't come into my bubble. I imagine something like that. The fact that their oratory, physical features weren't made for talking. It's not like they could say A, B, C, D, E, F, G like we could. It's got like a mandible.
Yeah,
that's probably I wonder if the ones we have here on Earth can do that. Just not as powerful. Ants and bees and everything do the same thing. So I imagine there's some kind of similarity.
Yeah, there's also insectoid hybrids and reptilian hybrids that are living in the underground, and have been living on Earth as well as inside the moon. There's bases on the moon and around our solar system, and those stories come from many sources, ancient and new. Many whistleblowers, and they're mentioned in my books that because us humans haven't been here for so long, just a few million years. And the universe and the planet have been here for so much longer. There's been other intelligent life forms and civilizations on this planet before us, and we can find.
Who knows how intelligent the dinosaurs were? I mean,
exactly.
They were around for a long time.
Well, I'm convinced some of them were intelligent. They had a civilization.
I mean, imagine if a dolphin. I mean, they could be doing it right now just under the ocean. We don't know. Imagine how dolphins. I think they're just like humans, but they're just underwater. Like, imagine if that existed on land. The same consciousness, the same speaking out loud. Dolphins even have sex for fun. Yeah, that's kind of one of the telltale things. Crazy dolphin love,
Yeah, intelligence is manifested in many, many different forms. Even like the crows are amazingly smart. smarter than a dog or monkeys.
Yeah. And that's the one thing whenever you study dinosaurs, like as a kid, the first thing they shoehorn for no reason, and no one asked, dinosaurs had a brain the size of a walnut. Why'd you keep saying that? Why is that what you go back to? Every scientist.
A lot of what they used to say has been just proven wrong. Like now, more and more they have to admit that dinosaurs had warm blood.
Yeah, they're not lizards.
They had hollow bones like birds, and so we've been wrong for them.
Like they could have been like the other intelligent species and got taken out. Could have been at war. Yeah. We don't know. It could have been a missile that hit them.
In fact, near the Grand Canyon, there's on the eastern ridge, there's lots of ancient pyramids that date from those days. Mm-hmm. And some of those building blocks are filled with dinosaur fossils. I wonder I'm confident some of those were intelligent species living in those pyramids.
Yeah, and even if you just did Occam's razor, and maybe the humans existed back then and split the atom and just blew themselves up.
Right.
You never know. And the reason the chickens lived is because they had them in a coop underground or something. I'm off the chain here. That's anything's possible. I don't know why we can't think like that.
Yeah. Yeah, we've been told what to believe and what not, but very often the mainstream doctrines are not following the evidence.
Just look at Graham Hancock.
Yeah, exactly. So
the younger Dryas. What I don't get is whenever you discuss the paranormal aspect of anything, like anything that might be remotely woo, and I love stuff that's woo. I mean, I'll take it all day long. But they get mad about it, like there's no scientific evidence. I mean, come on, man.
It's a lie because they've done so much research on all those things. Telepathy, telekinesis.
Mm-hmm. And the Army had the remote viewing. Yeah, the Army had that, and it worked.
Yeah. We can guess they still do. Oh.
What'd I do? They're trying to cut us off. We must have struck a nerve.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the Army, I kind of know, like, friend of a friend. I had him on the show, Paul Smith, one of the guys, the men that stare at goats. One of the guys that was based off of. He was telling me about the remote viewer that pictured the most extreme Russian prototype submarine that they didn't know they had. And they're like, that doesn't exist. Nobody would do any of that. And sure enough, when it was revealed, that's what they had. He was heralded as like the Elvis Presley of remote viewing. And that was the 60s. So imagine what they do now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Probably got a remote viewing machine.
Mm-hmm.
Let me ask you this. It's been about an hour. So when it comes to your Scenic Sasquatch, ScenicSasquatch.com, which book would you recommend people get from you that is like the best, the starter book for Sunbow and the Scenic Sasquatch?
Okay. Well, if you look at my homepage on Scenic Sasquatch, there's the.
Hang on a second. Let me share it. We got technology happening here. Hang on.
There's my 7 books are listed there. You can click on home. Right. If you scroll down, well, there's scroll down and down and down. There's a little mission statement, promo video, and then you got all the books listed there. The first 3 that are lower than this is the Sasquatch Message to Humanity trilogy. And the next one, this one is Hairy Humanoids from the Wild, Encyclopedia of All Things Sasquatch. And my last 3 books is a biography, memoirs of my contemporary shamanic journeys. So you can find all the links there. There's lots of resources, 900 posts, articles, and links, videos, interviews. You can browse a blog and a lot of No. Well, that would be the first one of on the Sasquatch that I wrote, and it's a smaller book. I mean, it's still the bestseller so far, and it's in 7 languages now.
Oh,
And then the two others follow.
Okay, so if anybody wants to get the scoop here, just scenicsasquatch.com, and they're available on Amazon too.
Yeah.
Love that picture right there. See, this is what I envision. I don't envision the ape.
Yeah.
I think
for this book,
like
there were 10 wonderful artists that contributed their artwork, 100 illustrations.
Are these based on actual sightings or anything?
Many of them are like, some of them are visions, some of the channel, or descriptions. There's also about every aspect of the phenomenon is studied in this book, and it goes into hundreds of sources. All
right. Yeah, well, thanks for coming on, man. I was glad you came on. I was worried. I was like, I need to, I was drawn back like a bow, just ready to fire. like if he doesn't come on here, I'm gonna have all that adrenaline. I get adrenaline when I do this. Yeah, this has been an interesting topic, and I'm glad to have finally had it with you. I watched some of these videos and everything. Like, man, this is much more than just a hobbyist that likes to hang out in his backyard.
Yeah, it's transformed my life, and that's why I'm sharing what it brought to me to the interested audience.
Yeah, well, you're doing the work of the good work. I wanted to say the Lord's work, but yeah, you're doing some good work here with it.
Yeah, it goes along. It's the same spirit. Yeah.
Yeah, that's been probably the hardest thing for me to get through. Honestly, that's been what it's led me to. I've even started going back to church, so I started doing this a lot more often.
Right.
I realize what kind of energy I'm dealing with, and I'm trying not to get to the evil kind. Keep that. That exists. That exists. That's real. That's real as me and you.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's good to to have allies and have a team. Work on the good side.
Mm-hmm. Well, man, I appreciate it. I'll let you get back to your life there, and everybody just check out scenicsasquatch.com. He's got some cool books there and a lot of cool videos and interviews. This one may be the lamest one he's done, I'm sure, because the rest of them are pretty professional.
Well, thanks a lot, Bobby.
Yeah. Nice. All right, thank you. I'll be in touch. Maybe I'll have you on again. I really appreciate it, though.
All right, cool.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe, of course.